So get this. Right at the turn of the millennium, our entire digital world was about to just collapse. And the heroes who saved the day? Not some government agency, not a massive tech giant. Nope. It was a tiny Indian company that started with just 10,000 rupees. Yeah, you heard that right. Let's get into this absolutely wild story.
Okay, so let's set the scene. It's 1999, and there's this real sense of panic everywhere. I mean, you turn on the TV and it's all doom and gloom. World leaders are making these serious open warnings. And the crazy thing is, this fear, it wasn't about a war or some asteroid. It was this silent, invisible digital threat that was about to take down, well, pretty much everything.
So who's the bad guy in all this? It's something called the Y2K bug. And what's wild is it wasn't some evil virus. It was a shortcut. See, back in the day, computer memory was insanely expensive. We're talking more precious than gold. So to save every tiny bit of space, programmers just used 2 digits for the year, 99 instead of 1999. Seemed like a smart move at the time, right? Well, that is until everyone suddenly realized that at the stroke of midnight on New Year's Eve, every computer in the world was about to think it was the year 1900.
And the potential consequences? I mean, they were straight up terrifying. Experts were predicting planes would literally fall out of the sky. Power grids would just go dark. Your bank account, it could suddenly have negative interest. There was even talk that nuclear missile systems could malfunction. This wasn't some Hollywood disaster movie plot. People believed this was a very real, very imminent possibility. Now, the solution sounds simple, right? Just go in and fix the code. But we're talking about millions and millions of lines of code, all needing to be rewritten by hand. And here's the twist. Over in America, it was the height of the dot-com boom. All the smartest engineers, they weren't looking to fix old, dusty, boring code. No way. They were trying to build the next Amazon, the next big thing. So that left a huge question. Who was going to do all this grunt work?
So you've got this global nightmare scenario looming. The world desperately needs an army of specialists who are experts in exactly the kind of boring, tedious work that everyone else had turned their noses up at. And that's when our unlikely heroes enter the picture, all the way from the other side of the world.
These heroes, they were a group of engineers from an Indian company you've probably heard of, Infosys. And they were led by a visionary named Narayana Murthy. Now, where the whole world saw a catastrophe, they saw something completely different. They saw the opportunity of a lifetime. And boy, did they seize it. In 1999 alone, the year they were deep in fixing this Y2K mess, Infosys blew past a $100 billion valuation. That is an absolutely insane number for a company that, just a few years earlier, most of the world had never even heard of. Which brings us to the big question, right? How on earth does a company that started with basically nothing, no venture capital, no rich family members, they didn't even have their own computer at first, how did they end up becoming the world's digital paramedics right when we needed them most? Well, to figure that out, we've got to go back, way back. Because their huge win in 1999, it wasn't some lucky break. It was the finish line of an 18-year-long marathon that started in a tiny one-bedroom apartment all the way back in 1981. All right, so let's dig into that origin story, because this is really a tale of just pure, unapologetic audacity and grit. So you have these 7 engineers, just regular middle-class guys, and they have this crazy dream to build a world-class software company from India. Their entire seed money? 10,000 rupees. And that money came from Narayana Murthy's wife, Sudha Murthy, from her personal savings. That's it. That was literally everything they had to start this company. And you have to understand, the India they were starting this in, it was a bureaucratic nightmare. It was a time called the License Raj, where you needed a government permit for absolutely everything. The highest tax rate was a mind-blowing 66%. And you couldn't just walk into a store and buy a computer. Think about that. It took these guys 2 years of fighting red tape just to get permission to import one single computer.
So you gotta ask, how did they even survive in a climate like that, let alone think about growing? Well, it all boiled down to 3 key things: building a reputation, making huge sacrifices, and having a really, really clever strategy.
Okay, lesson number 1 from these guys. When you're starting out, your reputation is your only currency. Infosys got its very first client, not because of the company's name. Nobody had heard of it. They got it because the client trusted one man,
Narayana Murthy. Murthy had done amazing work for him before, and that personal trust was everything. And that brings us to the sacrifice. I mean, this contrast is just incredible. While all their friends were out living the good life, buying cars, going to nice restaurants, partying on weekends, the Infosys guys, they were grinding. We're talking 14-hour workdays, crammed into tiny apartments, cooking their own simple food like dal khichdi, and literally washing the dishes themselves just to save every single penny. So, after years and years of this relentless grind, they finally get a shot at a massive client, Reebok. But think about it. How does a small, completely unknown company from India even get a meeting with a global giant like that?
This is where their strategy was just genius. They didn't go to Reebok directly. Instead, they found the consulting firm that Reebok already worked with and trusted. They went to them and said, look, you guys are brilliant at strategy, but you don't build the software to make it happen. We do. Let's team up. We'll be your secret weapon. And that one move was like a master key that unlocked the doors to tons of other Fortune 500 companies.
So this advisor strategy, it helped them grow, slow and steady. But for more than a decade, it felt like they were just pushing against a giant brick wall. And then two massive things happened in the world that didn't just open a door in that wall. They blew the entire thing to smithereens and launched Infosys into a whole new league.
First, in 1991, India's economy opened up. That whole license Raj nightmare, it was dismantled, making it way easier to do business. That was the first big crack in the wall. And then, in 1999, the entire world slammed into the Y2K wall. All of a sudden, every big company on the planet was desperate, scrambling to find experts in old, messy, complicated code. And guess who had basically been in training for that exact moment for the last 18 years? Just look at this chart. The growth is it's insane. After the economy opened up in 91, you see a nice steady climb in their revenue. But after Y2K hits, it goes vertical. It's a rocket ship. And that wasn't luck. This was the perfect definition of preparation meeting opportunity. A very specific, very hard-earned skill set, meaning a once-in-a-lifetime global crisis. And really, this is the core of the whole story. For 18 years, what everyone saw as their biggest weakness, the fact that they were working on these old, boring, complex systems that Silicon Valley wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, that weakness turned out to be their unique, unbeatable superpower, right when the world needed it most.
Which brings us to the final really powerful lesson from the Infosys story. And this one is about so much more than just business.
It really all comes down to persistence and humility. For a solid decade, from 81 to 91, nobody was cheering for these guys. They were invisible. They made it because they were willing to do the hard, unglamorous work. They were willing to wash the dishes, literally and figuratively, and become masters of a craft that everybody else looked down on. So it took them 18 long years of grinding to be in the perfect spot for their Y2K moment. And it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? What's the boring work that you're putting in right now? What's that superpower you're building? And what massive opportunity are you getting ready for, even if you can't quite see it yet?